Hi YouTube, this is Bonnie, Old Soul Mermaid with another video, and it's like, oh my gosh, I am filming 2 on-camera videos this weekend. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the weekend is the time where my husband and I get out of our house and get out of our little bubble, even if it's just to drive into downtown Austin and do some pickup. We still don't really go in anywhere. If I want to shop for some like crafting items or fabric, usually I do the curbside pickup thing, order online, do the curbside pickup thing, so we don't have to go in anywhere. So it's the weekends are the day that I at least put my makeup on and get dressed, and the rest of the week I'm pretty much here in my home. So this video today is a topic that I've heard from a couple of others that you might like addressed. I know that the topic of diversity is a big thing in the tarot community. Decks with the most diversity are being looked for, and the creators are being challenged to create more diverse decks, depicting gender, race, body types. But and I think that they're doing a really good job, the decks that are coming forward, or at least they're trying. But the one demographic that I see that is being neglected is age. Now, why is that? Why has age been the one thing that hasn't been really depicted? I have a lot of decks, and I went through a few of them and I have a couple of them here. You might get 1 or 2 cards depicting age, and usually I've noticed it's males, not females, that are depicted in their more mature incarnation, later stage of life. Why is that? Another double standard. It's not something that's going to keep me from buying a deck, because I know by and large, and it'll continue to be this way, that mostly depicted in tarot decks, especially more modern tarot decks, I'm not really addressing the fantasy or the cards kind of depicting, medieval Europe, or art decks that are from the Baroque or Renaissance time, because Europe, Western Europe, largely white, right? And so you can't expect or cry a foul, because those decks are so slim when you're going from a certain time frame and just a certain kind of place. But by and large, even the more modern decks that are coming out are still body beautiful and largely young. And so why is that? Why is that, especially for women? Is it because people don't want to see their mortality shoved in front of them, as we've had it shoved down our throats that aging is a bad thing? The commercials, with the beautiful Eva Longoria, touting the wonderfulness of L'Oreal products, hyaluronic acid, because you want your skin to bounce back. And I'm not bagging on Eva Longoria. She's getting a nice check from L'Oreal for that, and if somebody offered me that gig, I would take it, wouldn't you? But everything that's shoved into women's marketing, into their faces, is that you have to stay young. You have to stay young and relevant. You have to keep the wrinkles at bay as best you can. You can't have the menopause, that you can't let those changes that come with menopause happen to your body, because those things make you irrelevant. And partly I think that's some of, as a 53-year-old woman, I think partly that's my fault. As now that I no longer have kids and I don't work outside the home anymore, I don't have kids at home. I'm not out in the world as much, so I think my voice has become quieter. I don't interact with a lot of people on a daily basis, well, not counting these times, but in general, now that I'm not out there in the workplace, most of my interactions, they've been on social media. And before the current situation, my monthly or bi-weekly sewing get-togethers. So yeah, my world has become a lot smaller, and therefore my voice has become a lot smaller. But that's going to change. At least I'm going to speak up. Men are viewed, it's often been said, it's not as bad when a man's hair grays or he has a little, a few more pounds around the middle. But heaven forbid a woman, that happens to a woman, she's put into a box as irrelevant. And I think it happens to men. It does happen to men too, in the workplace. But I think by and large in this modern Western cultural society, it happens more to women, that we are put in a box and deemed as irrelevant. Now, I can understand why all artists, whether it's in, the media, movies, magazines, all models are young. The runway, high fashion is all young. But now I'm referring to the tarot community. Youthful energy is a very powerful thing. Youthful beauty is a very powerful thing. It's been written about it by the poets, and it's in literature, and I'm thinking of Helen of Troy, and just beauty is a very, very powerful thing, especially youthful beauty, the vibrance, the energy. It's a great tool, and it is a very powerful energy. But does that mean that getting older is all bad? And I'm here to say that it is not. I could think of one thing that has been a plus with my getting on in years is time. Time that I didn't have before to explore my interests. So much, especially once I started having kids and a family, everything was for my husband and my kids, and running a smooth household and attending to everybody's needs. And if you're a woman in that predicament, and especially if you have a very you have a career, a high pressured career, and trying to mitigate the responsibilities of family, that there are years where you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. So now that I'm not in that space anymore, I could say you have the luxury of time. But even though you have that, there's still not enough hours in the day, I'm telling you, to do all the things you want to do. The other thing I have now is space. It's not until now that I have 2 children who have graduated college, live in other states. My youngest is in college. He's in town though. He goes to UT Austin, but he lives in an on-campus apartment. It's just because of what happened in March, and classes went to online, then he moved back in with us. But in a couple of weeks, 2.5 weeks, he's going to be moving back closer to school. I think most of his classes are going to be online, but two of them, as of now, are going to be in lecture hall. And that's what they're doing. They're keeping their larger classes. They're going to keep those online, but he has a couple of smaller classes, like 30 students that are going to be meeting in person. And I think that's going to be something that at least UT Austin is going to try to work with, and along with testing to see how that goes. So, but going back to space, we have downsized a couple of times since my kids started leaving the nest, and we have now a nice little one-story house that's a perfect size. No more stairs, going up and down stairs for cleaning, and I have 2 rooms delegated for my interests and needs, and I've never had a room to myself, really. I shared a room with my sister growing up, a very small room. I was very neat and tidy, and she was kind of a mess and all over the place. And we had one very teeny tiny small closet. Our house was built in the mid 1940s, so there were 5 kids in my family, and it was a 2-bedroom house with a den that my parents converted into a room for my brothers. I had 3 brothers. So space, it's such a luxury now to have space. I am in my craft sewing room, and in the next room over is my workout room, which I have a ballet bar, I have my step, my weights, my kettlebells, and I don't have to go to a gym. So that's been really nice. So their aging is not all bad. There are, of course, there's things that, you don't like to see, or because I don't know if society and values have been different in this Western society that we live in. Maybe if we weren't told or taught that wrinkles were bad, if we weren't taught that gray hairs are bad, or letting your gray hairs are bad, would we still feel this way? Would I still be shocked when I see, that my freckles have turned into sunspots, or when I have the gray hairs poking out before I can dye my roots? Who's to say? Some other cultures, maturity and age and experience are very highly valued, but not in our society. So I want to read you something that I wrote last year in an Instagram post. I have 2 Instagram accounts. Old Soul Mermaid, where mostly is my tarot and maybe a little bit of my interest in art. You'll see posted there, but my first Instagram account was just a general overall account, focusing, on things my kids were up to, and being part of the sewing community when I started my interest in sewing. But I wrote this in February of 2019, so over a year ago. I joined a challenge to find a pattern that depicted an older model on the pattern cover, and I was to sew that dress and then take a picture of myself in that dress. And the model was supposed to be 40, 45 and over, because the big 4 pattern companies, McCall's, Butterick, Vogue, Simplicity, largely they don't show mature models on their pattern covers. Sound familiar? The indie pattern companies do a better job of that. They're not, by no means, not in an equal ratio, but they do a little bit better, especially also with depicting models of different body types, not just the willowy, you know, size sample model. So I'll just read you a little bit, because I think even though I'm referring to patterns, I think, you know, this can equate to, you know, tarot too. So I wrote, here's my contribution to hashtag so over 50 and hashtag so 50 visible challenge. The challenge is to make or post something you've made in the last year with a pattern that represents a model of a more mature demographic, say 45 plus. With all the patterns I own, I found that the aerial PDF pattern by Seamwork magazine is the only one I own that fits that qualification. The independent pattern companies do a way better job than the big four in representing diversity in race and body types, but they too are also thin in representing women over the half-century mark. These companies are neglecting a big chunk of the population, one whose life stories are etched and written on our faces and bodies, writ like a rich tapestry. The demographic also is supposed to have more disposable income, so that's a plus. A love for clothing, style, and self-expression does not end just because you hit a certain age. Society views us as invisible because we have a few more wrinkles on our faces and a few more pounds around the middle. Please, pattern designers, don't make the same mistake. Youth and youthful beauty are fleeting in a very short amount of time, and it will make your head spin at how fast it all goes. All you sexy young things will become invisible too. And believe me, you are not going to be happy when moo-moos and frumpness is all that are available to you. I'm 52, hear me roar. So the same thing can just be translated into life. It's like, you know, yeah, just because a woman turns a certain age doesn't mean that she stops loving things. You stop loving fashion, you stop loving makeup, you stop wanting to take care of yourself. Life starts slowing down a little bit if you're lucky. I have a little bit more money now than I did when I was a young mother, or you know, a young 20-something trying to start my life, but trying to buy a house, have kids, you know, all of, you know, everything went to my kids first. The only thing I was selfish about was I woke up at like 5 a.m. for many, many years to get my workouts in. And that was something like just for me. So I could get my workouts in, and then I could deal with everything else. So I'm going to show you some decks, and the first deck I'm going to show you, and I'm not picking on these decks. They're just used as an example of what I'm trying to express. This deck I consider a pretty good diverse deck. It's a modern deck. It has race diversity, gender diversity, body type diversity. It does have a little bit of age diversity, but not in the female department. There are men, older men depicted. So it is This Might Hurt tarot deck by Isabella Rotman. It is a wonderful deck. It's a more modern deck. So I'm going to show you all the images that are depicting people with maybe some gray, maybe a little bit overweight, a little bit more mature. So first of all, we've got the Hierophant card. But the Hierophant usually in a lot of decks are generally picked, you know, if they have the traditional imagery, they are depicted sometimes with a beard or a more mature countenance. So this is not a big thing here. We've got the Nine of Cups here. And sometimes it's depicted with maybe a slightly older gentleman, but I like this one because he has the white beard here. Usually you see the Nine of Cups with a guy sitting backwards, you know, in the RWS, looking very pleased with himself with all the cups behind him. This one I like because it shows somebody who's very content with where they are at in life, doing what they enjoy doing. And that's how I feel right now. Being able, at this point in my life, to be able to explore interests and hobbies that I didn't have time for before. Okay, this is the next card. What is that? The King of Cups, depicted by an older gentleman. And then, of course, this is typical in the RWS fashion, and this is pretty much, this deck follows the RWS. The Ten of Pentacles, and in the traditional RWS, you do have a generational depiction in this card. So that's not really groundbreaking right there, but I'm glad it's there. We have the Emperor, picked as a mature individual, but that again is not groundbreaking. He often is. And then I quite like this one. We've got an older gentleman in the King of Swords with a disability. And I love this card. But you know what? Where are the women? Where are the mature women? As you can see, this deck does a good job with race. It's got a lot of hip young people in here. Gender, it does a good job with. But look at this. You got some badass young people and the naked baby. Young, youthful. None of the women in here. Well, you don't know. This could be a woman in her 50s. You can't tell with the helmet on, but I would say it's not. Young, hip. Love that devil card. You know, I thought that maybe a more mature woman could be here with the Queen of Pentacles. Maybe a few little gray streaks could have been put in her hair. I don't know. I love this card. The Two of Cups. But you get my drift. Where are the women? Where are the mature women? Another deck I want to show you is when I thought, okay, so let's look at a female-centric deck. And I do have one. And it is Ethany Dawn's Bad Bitches Tarot. Great deck. One of my favorite decks. I love this deck for the female energy in this deck. Okay, so this deck does do a good job with race depiction and body diversity. You know, they're represented in this deck. But the only cards that I found depicting women maybe over 50 or over, were two cards, and they're both kind of the same. They're depicting multi-generational, and that is the Four of Wands, mother, daughter, granddaughter, and again that Ten of Pentacles. And I'm glad it's an older woman. Of course, it had to be an older woman in this card instead of the older gentleman that's usually depicted in this card. But that's it in this female-centric deck. I was trying to think of some other decks I had. The Lightseers Tarot has, what comes to mind is more gentleman with some gray. I think the King of Pentacles. I'm trying to think. I'm not going to go through, of course, all my decks to pick out, you know, where there is a mature woman. There's not many. And unless you have, and I need to get this deck, the Golden Girls. That is probably the only deck on the market that is depicting an older female demographic. And I'm not asking for a whole deck just for older mature people, but have some more queens maybe that are, you know, have a little gray in their hair. Especially if you're doing a diverse modern deck. It's one thing if you, yeah, I get it. If you're doing a fantasy deck, those are usually young, body beautiful. But if you're going to do a modern deck, it would be nice going forward that we could have this demographic of life, and especially in the female form, depicted and represented. It would be really nice. So I would like to hear your thoughts. What am I at? 27 minutes. Yeah, what do you think? Why do you think that there's such disparity in the representation of older women? And it's in, you know, for the tarot community to be, it's supposed to be a more enlightened community. Why do we still have some disparity in the depiction of the cards? And still, you know, it's not perfect with the race, gender, and body image. There's, I would say, even in the decks that are diverse, there's still, you know, they still can be largely white, largely very young, and largely body beautiful. So what do you think? I would really like your comments to see if we can start a discussion and maybe even start something in social media. Because I know if you're a young 20-something or 30-something watching this, becoming 50 seems like so far away, but I'm here to tell you it goes by like that. Wherever you are in life, in your 20s, 30s, maybe you're focusing on your career, you're spending so much time doing that. If you have a career and family, or if you're a stay-at-home mom, so much is focused on your kids. And time, it goes by in warp speed. It does. I'm here to tell you that it does. So, and just like that, all of a sudden you wake up, and it's like that Talking Heads song. But it doesn't feel very good to be told you're invisible, that you're irrelevant by society at large, because you know you still feel young at heart. You still feel young at heart. You know, you might have a little more aches and pains, and you might need some reading glasses now, but is that really so bad? And I will tell you that now that people are living longer, you are going to be relegated to this state of of being invisible a lot longer than you were this young, powerful, vibrant thing in your youth. Your old age lasts a lot longer than your relevant, vibrant youth in our society. So, what are you going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? Are we going to speak up? I plan to do sometime this week an Instagram post. Just trying. I have a very small channel. My Old Soul Mermaid Instagram account is very small. I think I have like 170 followers, but that's okay. I may start a hashtag or something if I can think of something clever, and imploring some deck creators. I do have a couple that follow me, and maybe we can start something, because inclusiveness of everybody is a wonderful thing, and I can't wait to see that deck creator who creates that deck that ticks all the boxes, or as many possible. Because I'm here to say, there is some wisdom and some good things that come with maturing and aging, and it's not all doom and gloom. So, yeah. If you found any value to this video or this discussion, please hit a like or subscribe, or share it with somebody who you think might need to hear it. Hit a notification button. Yeah, I'd really like to hear your opinions, and we'll start a discussion if you want to. So I will see you soon. I just got a little, well, the Amazon fairy just came to visit me. I just saw him walk across to leave something on my porch. So there is a little something that I will be unboxing sometime this week. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful, well, it's evening here in Central Texas, and yeah, I hope you have a wonderful evening. So until next time, have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.